Hi, welcome to the demonstration video of Fincast Teacher. Also, we will have tutorial videos in each specific section on how to use Fincast Teacher. Okay, so first I'm going to start of what is Fincast Teacher, how would you use it, and how does it benefit anybody who teaches. Well, Fincast Studio has been designed for teachers and engineers who teach online or demonstrate something online. For example, you may have a language teacher who's teaching via Skype remotely throughout the world. You may have students in various countries. We have technology created where here on the right hand side here where you see the blue screen is what we call our output to a virtual camera. The virtual camera can be selected like any real camera in any program that accepts a camera like Skype, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and really any program that accepts a video camera and a microphone, of course. So who would use it? Well, anyone who would teach online or anybody in the engineering construction business. For example, you might be a senior engineer, you may have a junior engineer on a remote site, you may need to show them a wiring diagram, for example, which can be done via Whiteboard. For example, we've got a whiteboard here and we can simply click the board, and this is what would be seen by the other person. We'll use Skype as an example, who's receiving your call via Skype. Again, you can simply click in ink and you could maybe draw something to demonstrate to that person. Okay, so I'll go back here in the beginning to the student section, because we're going to base this really on a teacher who has a number of students, who's teaching online to these students and wants to keep a track record of who their students are. And this is what I've done. I've got a couple of students in here to demonstrate. So before we do anything, it's advisable to have, before you have a lessons with a student, is to have that student created in your database in Fincast Teacher as a student. When you select that student, that means anything that we do from here on in for that student will be associated with that student. As an example, going back to the whiteboard, again, I don't know, we'll write something like 3 plus 3. I'm doing this with the mouse. It can also be done with the tab board. The tablet is not like it's like a plastic mouse with a pen. Some people may be familiar with it. They come in various sizes. So if you actually look at your screen now, you just see a version that I'm also using. So this can be used instead of the physical mouse on your computer, which is obviously a lot better because you're writing on a tablet with a pen, equivalent to a whiteboard or a blackboard. Okay, so I want to now go back to the student section. So basically every book that's selected in this lesson that we would be teaching would be associated with Tori James because he's the selected student. And again, we can just look up here on the right hand side to see who we have selected when we leave this pane. So for example, I'll go back to another student and I will select Kelly Howard. So we can see the board changes for Kelly Howard. There is nothing there associated with her from the last lesson on a whiteboard. So again, you know, we can just select the whiteboard and we can put in KH for Kelly Howard. And now we alternate between Tori and Kelly. We can see their whiteboard will remain as was from the previous time it was written on, unless of course you erase the whole whiteboard. So on the student section, we can update existing information for a student. We can add homework to the student, and I'll just click on update just so we can see what's going on. So we've got the usual stuff that we would expect to associate with information regarding a student, like the first name, middle name, surname, what they are learning. If you may be a teacher who teaches multiple languages, as an example, a date of enrollment, that they are actually enrolled with you, the date of birth, their gender, a photograph that represents them if there is one available, and their address, complete address, country, telephone number, mobile number, email, and Skype ID. Okay, as an example, we'll add a student. You can just simply click, and we just say, I don't know, maybe Mary Buck. We can select the date of birth for her, so we could probably put in maybe the 1st of the 1st, and the year being 2000, which would be correct. We can select also what she's learning, so we'll just say it's going to be English, and we can select an image if we need for her. Yeah, we'll just use this one as an example. Okay, so you don't need to save in Fincast Teacher. It knows how to save itself any updated information or a new record created by simply closing the window. It will save. So here we've got Mary Book for the information that we added for her, and again we see the English. There's no books chosen from the last previous lesson, and there is no read PDF book. So I'm going to explain what they are while I'm here at this stage. So homework is something when we have assigned homework to the selected students. In this case we obviously don't have any, we've nothing on the whiteboard for this specific person, and by default the reading pane, which is scrolling text, I'll just go on to read. This is very useful when you're teaching a language and the student is starting to be able to put some words together and read for you. So obviously reading at a specific level, like basic level, you may be reading at a much slower speed than normal, so clicking the play button or the space bar, which I just did there, the student can read away at that specific speed. We've got various things here, like increasing the speed when the student becomes more advanced. It's done with a rich text document. We can change the document by loading. The document in question, it will show the remainder percentage of the document that is being read. It will show the time left at the speed that we're now working at. I'll just stop this here. It allows us to resize the pointers for reading, the eyeliners, which is these yellow triangles, the text margin. You can move from left to right, and then you've got line width. You can change it the opposite way around if you prefer. You can have black and white if that's more preferred for the student to read, but my own preference is the white on a black background. You can actually edit the document from here, or you can load a whole new document. So for example, I will go to my desktop and I will go to, I've got a folder here called book, and I'll load this one called test. So this basically changes the text, and it's as simple as loading a text document like this. As equally, we have book, which is specifically for PDF files, and again we can click on the books and there's none chosen from any previous lesson. So again, I can go maybe, and I'll just take this manual on a headset, and it's the Jabra Elite Active 65T. So again, let's pop back to, actually I should stay on the book one just to demonstrate. We've got all the usual things you would expect in any PDF reader, like zoom in, zoom out. We have the pan where we can, well, it's turned on. It must be up to a specific level to pan, of course. We'll scope a little bit more, and there we go. So with the pan turned on, it allows us just, when we're up at a specific zoom level, past seeing everything where it fits in, allows us to move around the document itself. Okay, so we've also got up and down between the next page. We can go back and forth, or we can just simply type in the page number, click the enter key, and bring us straight to there. Now the good thing about it is, for each student where a document has last been opened, it is going to remember the next time you open exactly the percentage it was set at, the page that you were on. So you don't need to go readjusting. So for example, if you were on page 68 of a 500 book, you're at zoom level 150, which was a good level for that particular lesson. When you click on that student and click book again, all the settings will be exactly as they have been left the last time. Now I'm just going to go alternate between this student and another student. Actually, it's the same book, and we can see down here the last book for this student, which is Sue Hillcrest. But she doesn't have anything in the read, and we can see that's on page 7. We can actually go to the book itself, and we can see it's pretty much just covering. We can slide it up and add more information to it there. Now I want to go back to the previous student, which was Mary book, and when we clicked it, this time we can see we're back on the Pacific page where we left at, and of course we will be on the zoom level at 219%. And just in case you're wondering as you're watching this, yes, of course, when you close down your computer, open up your computer the next time, it will be exactly as it was left per student. Okay, that happens because there is a database, a SQL database in the program, and again here we've got a backup and restore your database, which is useful when you're doing upgrades of Fincast Teacher. So we can see when we look down through here that Mary Book is learning English. We can see the manual in question, which is Jabra Elite, and we can see the test document that we brought in for the reading pane here. And again, I'll just go on to read. If we alternate again to a different student like Tori James, actually he's got the same document, maybe this one, Linda Dunn, she's got the same document. Okay, so it's gone to the default one there for Andrew Kent, and so we can see also the rich text documents stay with the student if there is any. If there is none, you're going to just see rich text embedded on Fincast Teacher, but obviously we'll display none and none here. Okay, so you'll be glad to know we also have a lesson scheduler for all these students. We can look at it from a week point of view and month point of view, a day and a timeline. So there's two ways of doing this. One, if we just drag and drop in for the date and time for the student kind of disappears this time on the left hand pane. So if we take Tori James for example, we're kind of done with that. However, you may want to for example use the student on a couple of dates you may be setting up some lessons for, and in such a case you hold down the control key, which is the CTRL key. A picture of that's coming up on your screen now. Okay, holding that down and dragging the name over, so we'll take Kelly Howard for example. She remains in the left hand pane and allows us to set her up for Pacific times, and again we can drag out the time. If the lesson's going to be over 1 or 2 hours, we can actually add some other details to it. We can give it a category, for example, that she has prepaid for this lesson. We can make a priority for it, and then we've got some time markers on it, which is basically booked, cancelled, or to confirm. In this case we can say the lesson is booked. So the dark green represents the book. We see the priority here, and we can see that green means that the lesson is paid. For example, we could do similar with Tori James. We could go to the category here, and we could say that the lesson is unpaid, and we could go on a time marker to say that it's still to be confirmed. so we don't have anything solid. And as equally, if you want to move lessons around, if the student changes the date or the time, it's as simple as dragging around. Or you can open up and you can simply make changes here. So by default, we have a start time date that comes in automatically. And then you can do reoccurrence if needed. So for example, we might take Mary Buck. We might drag her over here onto Monday at 10 a.m. Now, Linda, or Mary, I beg your pardon, may have decided that she's going to take a lesson maybe, I don't know, every Monday. So we can do a reoccurrence on this from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, and we could say that every Monday and every Wednesday for the next 10 occurrences, Mary is going to do a lesson at this time with us. And we can just click OK to that and OK again. And if we go into the month version, we can see here she's in at Monday and Wednesday, but we can obviously see this a lot more on the month version of it. Okay, so we can see as I scroll down there, Mary is in here for the remaining of this specific month. We've got all students in question. Okay, again, there's going to be more detailed tutorial video just specifically on scheduling lessons in Fincast Teacher, but obviously it's a great way when you start off in the morning time and you just want to have a quick look and see okay, who I've got lessons with today. By simply opening it up, there's nobody there today, we can simply look down and see what lessons are available to us. Or again, we may get an email or a text message from a student and you may want to just change the time or move the date. You can easily do that. Okay. Now, homework. Well, we could go, for example, to select Tori James. We could assign some homework for Tori. We might say, read today's story, as an example. We could also say to learn new words, as an example. Again, you can save this to a text file and email it off to Tori also, where he gets the homework, especially if it's going to be a lot of stuff. You can add notes to it, and you can even check that you have corrected his specific homework. So now that Tori is actually selected, we might need to select off and select back on again. If we click here, we can add more homework to him. I'm just going to click cancel because I don't want to add another one. But if we actually click over on the homework tab, we can see where we've added the homework for Tori. And this will just keep adding each time you assign homework over weeks, months or years. There's no restriction on the limitation of that. Now we go back to the whiteboard. On the whiteboard, we've got quite a few options on this specific whiteboard. We can choose font size. We can choose color of the ink that we're going to use. We can choose an eraser. So basically, as long as we have the ink, it also means that we can erase, for example, what we've previously written. We can also make the eraser much larger if we need to speed things up in a hurry. So I'll take the eraser off and I'm going to bring up, this one gives us a pencil icon and we can see the ink is much bigger there at 24. Or you may prefer to have this kind of dot instead, and you might want to draw something like this and maybe a line like this. So this eraser is slightly different. When we click it, this eraser here, it basically erases the last kind of start stop that we have done. As an example, I'll just do it again. Let's pick blue. So I'm going to draw, I beg your pardon, I'm going to draw 1 line, 2 lines, 3 lines, and maybe then the number 3 and the number 4. So that's 5 specific starts and stops with the ink that have been done. So if I click on the eraser here and I click, it erases that specific start and finish, like me creating it, rather than individual erasing as we know it. However, you can as equally just simply click this specific one, which is clear ink on the board, and this one is clear the whole board, because we can also add typed text, and we can also add images, and we can just simply click it like that. Okay, so now I'm going to take red ink here, and again just draw really anything on it like so. Now what I want to do here is I want to demonstrate to you, I'm going to go to ink on the output. This is basically what the student sees, or the virtual camera if you prefer. There's times where you may need to point to something that you're specifically speaking about, and you don't want your student to be seeing your actual pointer. Well, we do have a pointer here built in, and when it's selected you can actually point to specific things, and this blue pointer is actually seen by the student. Okay, and you can turn it off as simply as that. Again, there's going to be more detailed tutorial video on fully how to use the whiteboard. Again, we've got a highlighter when you want to use highlighted text. We can add text, we can choose a font type, we can choose a color of the text, and we can simply just click OK. We can drag it really where we want to. Okay, so I'm just going to put it here, will be fine, and take off the select. The select allows us basically move around where we want to have this text to be typed, and this allows us to adjust the size of it that we want, and we can have various text blocks on the whiteboard in various colors and fonts, etc. So when we remove off the move and pan, so to speak, we can, add. So also, even though we do have images, which I'll go over, we can add an image. You may want to add an image on the whiteboard. So I don't know, maybe I'll just go to pictures here, and we might take, I don't know, some cosmetic-y picture. I know, we've got a fashion picture here, for example. Again, we can drag this around and put it to where we want. I'm just going to leave it there. Now I want to leave it small for the purpose of demonstrating to you. The whiteboard also has a zoom and pan, and the zoom and pan on it allows us click. So for example, if I want to zoom in on this guy, I can left click with my mouse on this specific part, zoom at 50% and a speed of 3. So we can just simply click this, and then we can zoom, and we can zoom out using the minus key. This is more of a manual version of it, without kind of it being automated. Every click brings us in, and the minus brings us out of the whiteboard. And you can even take a snapshot of the whiteboard. You might want to snap what you writ on it into an image, which would be of full high definition, and you may want to email it on to the student for example. Okay, so we'll just go off this and select another student here, which is Kelly Howard, and again you see if we click back for Tori James, we will have all the information we have previously done on the whiteboard. You can, in one very simple, without defining, like if you want to delete text, you can right click and click delete, and you can clear the ink by just simply clicking the clear ink. However, if you want to just clear the whole board, you can simply click this button here. Now, because you're clearing the whole board, you're going to get a prompt allowing you to cancel in case you click this button by mistake. And I just say to you, this will clear the whole board and all the information. And if that's what you want to do, click OK. And that's it, you're done. And then when you come back to Tori James on the next lesson, we've got a clean board if we didn't want to keep any information for the next lesson. Or you maybe after starting a lesson and have completed all the information previously, and now you're wiping the board for this lesson. Okay, so we have media also. In the media section, we can have up to 3 images, and we can switch in images 1, 2 and 3, all again depending on what you're teaching. Keep in mind the virtual camera on the output screen, what the student sees via Skype as an example, is in full high definition. This is just your reference where you see obviously what you're switching yourself. How is it done? Well, basically, again, I'm going to use Skype as a demonstration. You go to your settings in Skype, which I will demonstrate in the tutorial video, specifically on selecting the virtual camera in Skype. So basically, you go to your settings where you normally would select a camera or the camera, and you change it from maybe your integrated camera on your PC to where you will see literally a camera named virtual camera. And that's Fincast's camera, and you select that one. However, after selecting that camera for it to be live, as you make changes and you are doing stuff, you will click this button here called virtual camera, and it will turn green, which means it is on. And everything that happens here, including your real camera, because you can also add your real camera here as normal, and you can split off the screen using for example dual. So this will be your real camera, and this would be whatever you've selected on the board, splitting it off so the student's looking at you and looking at, for example, the whiteboard simultaneously, or the book, or whatever the case. If we turn off the dual camera and get back to full, so maybe let's just go back to image number 2. You also have a downstream of the camera where you can have yourself in a very small, just to let the student know I'm still here. Personally myself, I find it's much better maybe on the bottom of the screen rather than the top. By default, as the making of this video, it's on the top. Of course, you can right click here for a menu and click position and resize. This can be any size you want and wherever you want, and again you can resize this where it's going to be small or maybe more landscape, etc. And then just close that down. So when we turn on the downstream again, this is where a live camera will be. Maybe we have for Tori James, last time we selected a video which was Big Book Bunny. So we click this is called like a load video. So in other words, without going to the video player and having to reload this video, if the file still exists and the computer has not been moved or has not been deleted, well, when we click this, it'll reload it. And we can go to the video on the outputs here. And just turn off that cam. And we can go back to media, and I'll put the volume down here because it'll come all over me. And we'll click play. And yes, your student would be watching this video. Again, there will be a more in-depth tutorial video on playing a video on how the student is actually going to hear that also using a virtual cable. It can be done, including the audio of a media file. So this is a very good video player. It has frame by frame. It also plays audio files, and you can play in slow motion and speed it up. And of course, speeding up the audio for an audio file is incredibly good for student learning language and dialogue. Okay, now we're going to go to a little visit of Skype, and we're going to select the virtual camera. So the virtual camera will be selected in Skype, and obviously what's in our output window here we should be seeing. So I'm just going to minimize this and go to Skype settings. For the sake of privacy to others, the left hand pane of contacts is shaded out. Now you go to settings, audio and video. Presence, there is a Logitech camera connected, and you scroll down to your various cameras and simply select virtual camera. That's it, that's simple, and you're good to go. And now your camera is the virtual camera and the output that people will see. Okay.